Welcome back. I sure missed that Lake Mojave weather. It's about 30 degrees here today. Okay, so this is going to be trip number 3 for 2024, and I'm excited because I'm going to Clear Lake in Northern California. I've never been there. I used to watch the Bassmaster tournaments on ESPN a long time ago, and every once in a while they'd have a West Coast tournament, and it would either be the Delta or Clear Lake. And man, they'd bring in some heavy bags. I don't know the exact year, but what's his name? God, I always forget his name. Byron Velvick. He broke the record, three day total weight. It was like 83 pounds, I think, and he did it on Clear Lake. He held that record till I think it was like 2 months ago, where Scott Martin broke it with 90 pounds. But whether you agree with forward-facing sonar or not, you kind of have to admit Byron's accomplishment was more impressive because he didn't have that advantage. In fact, the technology is going to wipe out all the records. Some 19-year-old kid just broke a record. He either broke the Lake Fork record or the Bassmaster record for 4 days. 19 years old. Now, I'm sure he's a good fisherman, but he was fishing against guys in that tournament who literally have forgotten more about bass fishing than he could know. Not because he's not smart, but because he's only been on this earth for 19 years. So the records are I'm sure, all going to fall. And here's the thing about the record. Like this kid, Scott Martin, they're not going to hold the record as long as the previous person, like Byron and whoever had the Lake Fork record, because the technology levels the playing field. Now it's not a major event. You know, it used to be you had to have the right pattern, you had to be on the right fish, you had to be using, everything had to fall into place that day for you to catch this big limit. Not anymore. Now you go out there, you turn on your electronics, and you just find the big fish. So I wouldn't be surprised if Scott Martin's 90-pound record is gone in 2 or 3 years. Perfect example is baseball. They started taking steroids in baseball in the 80s, and in the 90s it really peaked. And a guy named Roger Maris, he hit 61 home runs in 1961 for the Yankees. That record stood for 37 years. And then a guy named Mark McGwire and another guy named Sammy Sosa, in the same year, they broke his record. Mark McGwire broke it first, so he got all the publicity, but Sammy Sosa broke it too. They were both taking steroids. I think Mark McGwire ended up with 70. That was the record. Well, a guy named Barry Bonds is sitting at home, and he's watching these guys get all this media attention and all this fan attention, and he said, you know what? I want in on this. So he found some guy in Northern California who invented a steroid cream. You rub it in your skin. And I remember seeing Barry Bonds on the field before a game rubbing this white stuff on his arms. I thought it was sunscreen. Now Barry Bonds is black, and so I'm thinking, I wonder why he thinks he needs sunscreen. It was so blatant. He was rubbing steroid cream on right before a game. Anyway, 3 years later, he broke Mark McGwire's record. Mark McGwire's 70 home runs lasted a total of 3 years. And I think that's what's going to happen in fishing. All the records are going to be broken, but they're going to be meaningless because they're going to get broken right away by somebody else. Anyway, I'm going to Clear Lake, and I'm excited because I know there used to be big fish in there. I don't know, fishing has gotten more popular. The fishing pressure on well-known lakes probably takes its toll, so I don't really know what to expect. I just know that at one point there were some big fish in there, so I'm looking forward to it. Now, I'm going for bedfish, but that doesn't mean I'm sight fishing. It's called Clear Lake, but I don't have any idea of the water clarity. If the lake is clear here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be fishing shallow for bedfish, but I'm going to be fishing, not looking. But I'm also going to be looking. And if I see a light spot and I look, and it's a bed and there's a bass, I'm going to sight fish. And here's the plan. This is when I haven't sight fished since I left California. I've done very little sight fishing. But when I lived in California, I used to do it a lot because the lakes were all clear. This is my favorite bait for sight fishing. It's a jig, probably 3/8 ounce jig with a white skirt, and it's got this little tiny imitation craw, and in the craw there's a pocket in there, and I stick a rattle in there, and I use super glue. I don't know if you can hear this. When I shake this lure on the bed, the bass hears that clicking, and I had a lot of success sight fishing with this bait. So that's my main one. Let's say the bass is, average fish, 2-3 pounds. I'll spend 5 minutes or less to catch that fish, and if he's not a biter, I move on. But let's say it's 5 pounds or more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set my cell phone timer 15 minutes. And when that timer goes off, I'm done trying to catch that fish. This is my big fish sight fish bait. This is actually a saltwater tube, and some guy told me about this. God, I've probably been fishing a year, and I met this guy at one of those pro-ams, and he told, at the time, I guess no one was doing it. He said, oh, you get a big fish on a bed. He said, throw a saltwater tube at them. He said, they go crazy. So I've used this, but, I've never sight fished 8, 9, 10 pound fish. I just never saw any. So if I get a big fish on a bed, I'll try to get them with that, and I'll follow up with this. If the water's dirty, those two rods I'll probably take this off and put a frog on if the water's dirty. So in the meantime, the way I'm going to be fishing is I'm going to be fan casting the flats as I look. And the two main baits I'm going to use is my spinner bait. This one has a lot more white in it than I usually throw. Same combination blades. I like this combination of blades. And I'm also going to be throwing my glide bait, because this thing sinks so slow. Let's say I'm in 3 or 4 feet of water. I can count this down, say a foot, and glide this over a bed and get a reaction. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. It's been a long time ago. I think that's how Byron won the tournament. He was bed fishing with, they were swim baits. I don't know if it was a glide bait, but I'll be throwing those two the most. Every time I get to a shallow, flat area that I think might have spawners, I'm going to fan cast the area with both of these baits, and then I'll move into the cover. If there's shoreline cover, I've got my Senko. I always have a Senko tied on, but this is 12-pound test. This isn't the most powerful rod. I can't throw this into heavy stuff because I won't be able to get a big fish out. So I'm going to throw this around isolated cover, the outside edge of cover, where I can get that fish out of the thick stuff. If I get into some areas with some thick stuff, I dip this in orange. I just like when I'm fishing beds, I'm not going to see the fish in the heavy cover. I just like to have a different color. So this, I'll be able to probably flip more than pitch. And then the last one, which I probably won't throw it much. I haven't thrown this since I left California. I know that Gary Yamamoto makes it. I don't even know what it's called, but I threw that a little bit when I was in California, and it's heavy. It's got a lot of salt in it. It's heavy, and I can flip this probably into the same spots that I would put the craw, and I just think this has a better, the way it falls, because when it falls, it naturally falls like that. It doesn't just go, you know. So those are my 7 rods, and you know, these things have a way of sometimes, you know, things happen and I change my mind about things, but that's the plan going in. And then I got a topographical map. I'm going to show you day 1 on the map. I bought this map before I came to Idaho. I was looking through all my maps that I've still got, and I have it. What happened was I wanted to fish the Delta and Clear Lake when I still lived down there. I actually took a trip to the Delta, didn't catch any big bass. I caught a big striper. I think it was like 15 pounds. I used to have a picture of it, and I can't find it anymore. But never got to the Clear Lake, so I still have the map. So I'm going to show you on the map where I'm going on day 1. Okay, here's the lake. I'm going to call this the north end, and this will be the south end here. Let's see, I am staying, on first night, I'm going to be staying right in here somewhere. So you see all these red lines, these are streets. So the lake is like right there in the city. I want to get away from people, so I'm going to run down to this end of the lake. There's an island right there, and you know, I don't know, like if you look at, let's see, if you look at, they call that swamp, so I'm not really sure what to expect there, and I don't know how much of this I can fish, you know, these canals, but I'm going to start on here and just fish, and I'm going to fish this. I'm going to call this the western shoreline, and I'm just going to fish it all the way. The map says from here to here is about 8 miles. There's no way I can fish 8 miles, more than 8 miles in a day, unless there's a bunch of boats, and there might be a bunch of boats because I think this is a really popular lake. So I'll work around other boats, and I'll just fish. You know, where you see contour lines real close together, I'll probably skip because it means it's the bank is deep. But my plan is day 1 in here. So I'm going to go all the way to here, and if I get over here and there's time left in the day, I'll just either run up into here, or I will just jump across and fish the let's call that the eastern shore back towards where I'm staying. So that's day 1. I'm planning on day 2, both days up here, because it looks a lot more. There's a lot more spawning area. See how the lines are so far apart. There's a lot of shallower water. But day 1, I'm just gonna try down in here. So I'll see you there Monday, somewhere around this island. Remember, I went to Lake Shasta, and I drove by Klamath Lake. This is Klamath Lake. And when I got home, I Googled it because I saw how big it was. This lake is as big as Lake Ponderay. It's over 60,000 surface acres. And I think, well, they said the only fish they listed was something called a red band trout. And I think I know why there's nobody out here, because they issue a warning to people: don't come in contact with the water, because it has some sort of a toxin in it. So I'm guessing that keeps the water skiers and the jet skiers off the lake. And you know, I can't imagine any fisherman would want to catch trout that are swimming in toxic water and take it home and eat it. So there's nobody there. I want to tell you a story. About 8 years ago, I saw a guy die right there. I'm on I-5 south, and I'm heading over Lake Shasta. And 8 years ago, I dated a woman. Her parents lived in Chico, which is south of here. We went and stayed with them for a few days. I was coming home, and I was northbound on the 5. I was about halfway across this bridge, and there was an 18-wheeler way up there where I pointed at the end of the bridge, and his brake lights came on. And as I approached, I realized he had stopped, so I got over to the left lane to pass him. And when I got in the left lane, there was a car facing north with smoke coming out of it. I got out of my truck. I ran up to the guy. It was one guy in the car, and the impact was so bad that his airbag deployed, but he went through over the top of the airbag, and his forehead was stuck in the windshield, and the front of his car was completely destroyed. There was no blood. I looked at him to see if he was breathing. He wasn't. I called out to him, and then I touched his arm, and he was cold. So he died instantly. And the guy in the truck, the 18-wheeler, he got out of his truck, and he was looking at me like, for some sort of a sign about, is the guy okay? And when I shook my head no, he lost it. I think he was crying. He sat down on the ground. I called 911. I told him what happened. I said, it's not really an emergency. The guy's dead. I said, but, traffic's going to start backing up. Anyway, as I walked past his car to go back to my truck, I went around to the passenger side. I looked in the window, and there was one of those laminated name tags. It had his name, and it said he was a diabetic. So I went home, and about a week later, I got a call from the California Highway Patrol. They asked me, what I had seen. And I said, I didn't see an accident. I said, I just came on it. I was right behind it. I said, it looks like the guy in the car maybe tried to pass an 18-wheeler on the left, and he slammed into the concrete barriers, and the cop said, no, that's not what happened. He was going the wrong way on I-5. We were getting calls about a wrong-way driver, and he hit that semi head-on. And so that's why the impact was so great. There's a curve right there. He came around that curve and hit that guy, that 18-wheeler, and he must have spun off of it, slammed into the concrete barriers, and did 180 and came to rest in that lane facing the right way. Anyway, when I went through the Coquilala Slough culvert, I've told that story, how 4 days before it collapsed, I went in there with my boat, and then the morning after it collapsed, I was getting ready to go in there again. So I was real close to being in there when it collapsed. Well, in this case, if that 18-wheeler hadn't been in front of me, that guy would have been barreling down south on the northbound, and it's only 2 lanes. There's no place to pull over. So if it wasn't suicide, then I probably could have avoided him, because I probably would have had time. If he was in the right lane, I would have got in the left lane, and he would have gone past me. If it was suicide, I might not be here today, because there was no place to go. Anyway, that's my story. I actually saw, I won't tell the story, but I actually saw 4 people die in Colorado in a head-on collision, and that one was way worse because I tried to stop it for a good, I don't know, I'm gonna say 2 minutes. I saw it happening, and I tried to stop it, and I just couldn't stop it. Okay, I can't believe it. I'm on Clear Lake. This is unreal. I don't have goosebumps, but I got this feeling like I'm in a shrine. This place and Okeechobee in Florida, for some reason, maybe because when I first started watching bass tournaments, like those were the 2 lakes that stuck out in my head. I've always wanted to fish this place, and I tell you, there's a lot of water to fish. That island in the southwest corner is right here behind me. The water, I stuck my spinnerbait in there and dropped it. It's like 3 feet visibility. So when the sun comes up, if the wind doesn't blow, something just boiled right there. And I don't think there's carp in here. I may do some sight fishing. I see a lot of bank stuff, but here's the thing. I googled 2024 bass tournaments on Clear Lake. They have a ton of tournaments here. A couple of weeks ago, they had an MLF and a Toyota College Series tournament on the same weekend here. So the bank probably gets beat up pretty good. I'm gonna try to establish something like, say, 3 to 5 feet deep off the bank, because that doesn't get hit as much. But eventually, when I get to the bank, I'm gonna fish it, but I'm gonna fish it fast. Those fish are either gonna be ready to bite or I'm moving on. So I'm starting in this area. I mean, I can probably spend 3 or 4 hours right in this cove around this island, and I may do that if I'm catching fish. So I'm gonna get started. Day 1, Clear Lake. I'm excited. Go, start recording. Oh, I got my first one. It's not very big. Oh my goodness. Well, I got my first one, and he's not very big. Oh my goodness. Clear Lake. He's not bad. I hope I didn't come here with too high of expectations. But it's a keeper. Hey, listen, I want 5 keepers. That's it. I came all the way in the back, so I got my first clue. I mean, way up back in here, so I'm probably gonna end up beating the bank. Let's okay. Well, he ain't even 2 pounds, I know that. I didn't know they had little ones in here. 113. All right, buddy, sorry about that. Well, the good news, I won't be skunked. 113. And I've only been here about 20 minutes, so that's good. Okay, so I threw the spinnerbait on the outside part here, and then I just decided to pull in here, and I caught one. So I'm gonna beat the bank. I'm gonna go around this island and get up into this stuff and pitch into these trees and stuff. I'm gonna work my way completely around this island. Determined that even with all the tournaments, there's so much bank that I'm gonna be fishing. It's only 55 degrees, but I think some are up in here, and that's my plan. I'm gonna fish the bank, all this stuff up here. There's just so much of it. I didn't even fish all the way around the island yet, but I was drawn over here, and it goes all the way back there. There's just so much of it. So for now, at least, I'm gonna work my way in. I'm gonna fish this stuff. Okay, update. I've been fishing 2 hours. I fished about half the island, and then a boat came, so I didn't fish one half. I went in shallow. I did a lot of pitching, no bites. On my way, working my way through the cove, I was throwing the spinnerbait on the edge of the weeds. No bites. So I got that one little one in here, and I'm ready to move. So I see a boat heading into where I was going next, but I'll work around the other boats. But I'm going to start heading north on this shore. I guess what I've determined, the tules, there's a lot of tules in here, but where you can't see the tules anymore, it's really thick grass. This is where that forward-facing thing that Scott Martin used would come in so handy, because you could shine it in there and it'll show you the holes. You pretty much got to find the holes. Otherwise, I mean, it's so thick. So I think I'm going to pass up the tules. I'm going to look for some other type of cover. But I'm gonna head that way and just work my way and try to figure something out. I threw the glide bait, but not much. When I came into this cove where the houses are, I threw it kind of on the way in, but I really haven't thrown it much. It's been the spinner bait and the Senko. I may have to change it up, but it's only been 2 hours, so I'm gonna head that way now. You see the tules? These coves all look exactly the same. Docks with tules. I haven't caught one fish. I haven't seen a fish. You know, I go in sometimes and just look, and I'll see a bald spot. Haven't seen a fish on a bed. I'm beginning to think that this is not the pattern. So what I did was, unfortunately, I left some of my rods at home. This isn't the right rod for this, but I put a sinking minnow on, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go find steep banks, and I'm going to throw my sinking minnow on the steeper banks. I don't want to take the Senko off yet. I don't know why. It's like a security blanket, but I just want to leave it on, and that's really the rod. That and the spinnerbait rod work the best with this. This rod's too heavy. This was one of my sight fish rods, but that's what I'm gonna do. I've been doing this. It's 11:30. I've been fishing 4 hours. I got one little fish, and so this isn't working. I can keep going into these coves all the way, but it's gonna be, everything looks exactly the same. And so, you know, who was it said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result? I think that was Albert Einstein, I think. But anyway, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing the same thing over and over again, hoping to get a bite. You know, I figured, okay, I'll take 5 bites today, but one every 4 hours ain't gonna cut it. So that's my long way of saying the steeper bank was on that side, according to the map. I'm gonna run across the lake, and I am going to throw my sinking minnow down the steep bank. Okay, I wanted to give you an update. So here's what happened. I was gonna run to the other side and throw the sinking minnow. I looked at the map, and there's a stretch here that's like over there. It's deep, and the wind laid down, and I was throwing my sinking minnow in about, I don't know, 8 to 10 feet, and as I was moving, I was looking, and I saw a bass on a bed in about 5 feet. And then I tried to catch it. I tied my my sight fish, my little jig on. Couldn't get him to bite. Moved down a little, saw another one on a bed. He swam off, he didn't come back. Third one, I worked on him a little bit, couldn't get him to bite. And the wind started blowing. So I saw 3 bass on beds in a very short stretch. And here's the thing, I'm in deep water. This water out here is deep. It comes up right at the bank. I've been fishing these shallow bays. What I'm gonna do, because I think, looks like the wind's blowing in this direction, I'm gonna run across. There's a lot of steep bank on that side. That's why I wasn't even gonna fish it, because I thought, you know, they'd be bedding in the shallow bays. I'm gonna run across the lake, and I'm gonna try to find some flatter water, and I'm gonna sight fish, because, you know, nothing's working. I know now there's bass here on beds. They weren't huge, you know, I would say 2 to 3 pounders. So that's what I'm doing. I'm running across the lake. I'm actually going to work my way down towards where I launched and just look for this kind of water, because 3 in a very short time, and then the wind started. I only got halfway along this. Let me show you what it looks like. GoPro. So it's got the tules on the bank, and then it's got like these other places. There's tules or weeds. I don't know if they're tules, but they're underwater. You can't see, and they come out, and there's there's holes in there that they're bedding in. So, I mean, you know, I could blind cast my Senko. Problem is, they're in 5 feet of water. It takes that Senko too long to sink 5 feet. So I'm gonna sight fish. I'm gonna run across the lake. Okay, time for an update. I'm struggling. I've been fishing 6 hours. I got one little keeper. And I mean, I'm trying everything. I've tried, well, the spinnerbait, the jerkbait, the craw, the Senko. I stopped throwing the Senko because, I mean, the only clue I've got, really, those bedfish I saw on the other side, they were deeper. They were probably 4 or 5 feet deep. That Senko sinks way too slow. I could add some weight to it, but I'm gonna run all the way back across the lake to where I saw those 3 bedfish, and I'm gonna fish that stretch. I'm gonna throw my spinnerbait. The wind's blowing. It helps the spinnerbait bite. And basically, I'm back to what I did on Lake Mojave, where I'm pretty sure most of those fish I was catching on the spinnerbait, they were bedfish, you know, and the spinnerbait went by them and they just whacked at it. I'm gonna try that. I can't sight fish, it's too windy, but they're there. I saw 3 of them before the wind started blowing, and that went for quite a way. It went around the corner. There's another cove over there, so I'm just gonna fish that. I'm gonna run there. That it's like on edge of the weeds type of thing, and I'm gonna throw my spinnerbait in there and try to get bit, because I don't know, I'm struggling. I tell you, 2024 has not been kind to me. So, all right, I'm gonna run back across. Okay, update time. I'm struggling, man. I got that one fish. I had one other one on. I lost him at the boat, and I don't even think he was a pound. And that's it, and I'm working. I got about 2 hours, and since I'm never coming back, I've covered a lot of water. The narrows are up there. That's almost like the halfway point. Actually, it's not the halfway point, but it's where the other side is where it gets real wide and shallow. I'm just gonna take a boat ride, and I'm gonna go over to the narrows, and then there's another section that goes, you know, in. I'm gonna run all the way down there, and I'm gonna fish the rest of the day, you know, just so I can say I fished a lot of this water down here, because the next 2 days are up north, and I hope it's, I tell you what, it's up to 61 degrees, the water. I'm not seeing, I saw 3 bedfish in that one spot, one area, and unfortunately the wind was blowing. Now that the wind's dead, I've been able to sight fish while I'm fishing. I don't see anything. So I gotta change something tomorrow, because this ain't working. I don't think I'm gonna be fishing toolies at all tomorrow. Both of my bites, the one I caught, I went in deep into where all the trees are, and the one I lost, I did the same thing. So I'll probably be doing that, but I'm gonna probably sight fish tomorrow if it's like this. They're on beds. They gotta be on beds. It's in the 60s, and I'm just in the wrong area or doing something, I don't know. But anyway, I'm not giving up. I got 2 more hours. Maybe I'll hit a school. So I'm gonna run way over there and see what that looks like. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I've seen more bass boats down here than I saw all day over there. This is called Rattlesnake Island. There's a guy over there. I'm gonna go that way, and I'm gonna fish around Rattlesnake Island till it's time to go home. I got a long run back to the ramp, but I'm going to throw the spinnerbait. You know, it's the thing I have the most confidence in. There's brush. That's what I'm gonna do. Look at that. See the water through there? Boy, I wish I could get back in there. I wonder, Look at that. It's like a little pond back there. Okay, I am done. I caught that one fish. It's funny, when I caught that fish, my first thought was, well, I got to make sure I cull this one out. That was the only one I caught. You know, I love being out here. I mean, you know, only catching one fish it's a long day, but I just love being out here and fishing. But the disappointing part is, you know, I make these videos to entertain people, and then, you know, there's nothing entertaining about a bass fishing video if you're not catching bass. So, you know, when I make these long runs, these long trips, I hope to make 3 videos, but there's no way I can make a video out of this one. So hopefully I figure something out tomorrow. I'm going to be way up north, and I can combine, you know, enough action tomorrow with today. I'll make one video for the 2, and then hopefully I'll figure something out for day 3. I don't know. I got to go back. I gotta totally rethink what I'm gonna do. I didn't get a whole lot of clues today. Right there at the end, I was over at Rattlesnake Island. I tell you, if I can figure out a way to get through all those trees, there's water behind there. Man, I got a feeling that they go in there and spawn back there. I don't know if I can do it. I'm gonna, maybe you know, break some branches and get through there. I don't know. I'll figure something out. But I'll go over the map for day 2 when I get to the hotel. But that's it for this one, and not a lot of action. Okay, I'll see you. See you tomorrow.